When it comes to former NBA MVPs, very few of those players get disrespected and hated on like Russell Westbrook. And after winning MVP, many forget he sacrificed for teammates in order to win games. Whether it be Paul George in 2019, Harden in 2020, or even Beal in 2021. And I know Russ on the Wizards seems like forever ago, but him in Washington, he put up 22, 11, and 11, and late in the year was leading the team to the playoffs as the #1 option. And that year, Bradley Beal, Westbrook gave him the keys as the guy to the offense. Very few former MVPs can take a step back, put their ego aside, and let a guy like Beal run the show. Now, after Washington and that stellar season, of course you all know in Los Angeles, it got pretty ugly. As the Lakers, there was tons of hype, expectations, and of course, pressure. And for the most part, like I've said numerous times, Russell Westbrook deserves some blame for that team not panning out. But if you ask the NBA media, and especially Lakers fans, Westbrook solely was the problem and was responsible for all their faults. Whether it be their piss-poor defense, their stagnant offense, or their awful clutch time play. Russell Westbrook in Los Angeles, playing for the Lakers, was quite literally blamed for everything. And looking at past NBA MVPs like Westbrook, I think Allen Iverson and his career arc is pretty similar. As both AI and Westbrook were highly controversial, they won one MVP, made one NBA Finals, and in their later years were traded numerous times. And for Iverson specifically, many forget he was pushed out of the game prematurely. As in 08 with Denver, he was averaging 26.4 points and helping that team win 50 games in a stacked West. But by 2010, only 2 years later, he was traded 3 times and only averaging 13.9 points in Philly. And the following year in 2011, he was playing overseas in Turkey and out of the NBA just like that. I hate to say it, but Westbrook this year was eerily close to becoming AI in 2011, getting booted from the NBA for whatever reason. But luckily for him, he was traded from LA to Utah, never played a game, and traded back to LA, this time playing for the Clippers. Westbrook going to the Clippers was the biggest blessing for his career you could possibly imagine, as on this team, his skill set is actually valued and he fits their roster and what they need. As looking at him on the Clippers, in a very short time period, he averaged 15.8 points, 7.6 assists, 4.9 boards on impressive 49-36 and 65 splits. And funny enough, his first 5 games with the Clippers, they lost every single one of them. And once again, the NBA media was back on Westbrook, saying he should be out of the NBA and he wasn't a fit for this Clippers team. And look, at this point, being written off for the 20th time really didn't matter for Westbrook, as in the next 16 games, the Clippers go 11-5, make the playoffs, and snag the 5th seed. Now, when it comes to Westbrook, of course, when he retires, what he'll be known for is triple-doubles. But surprising to me and many, at this point in his career, on the Clippers, he's a defensive menace and a pest to ball handlers. And really watching his defense versus the Suns, he's guarding guys who are 6'6", 6'8", and even Kevin Durant. And playing versus the Suns in Game 1 and Game 2, he's blocked KD at least 3 times, and held both Booker and CP3 well below their average shooting splits. And it might be a backhanded compliment, but it is true, Russell Westbrook in Game 1 had the best ever 3 of 19 shooting game in playoff history. He couldn't put a beach ball in the ocean, and still, he was the Clippers' second best player, having 11 boards, 8 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. And despite not making a shot in the 4th quarter, he still showed up big time late in that game, having clutch offensive rebounds, tipping the ball out, getting extra possessions. Of course, the block on Booker, the save, the toss off his leg, that was all clutch. And to top it off, Russell Westbrook, a 65% free throw shooter, nailed 2 of them to ice the game. For Westbrook at age 34 going on 35, his offense is not going to be there every single night like it was in 2017. But defensively, for Clipper Russ, you can count on it just about every night. And I do want to make this clear, when it comes to Clippers versus the Suns and who wins this series, for Westbrook individually, I really don't think it matters. As most important for him, in those last 16 games of the year, he quite literally saved his career. And after Game 1, even Game 2, he showed his true value and the immense impact it can have on elite NBA teams. And comparing Lakers Russ versus Clippers Russ, being called a vampire for the Lakers, I don't see it at all for the Clippers. As with his teammates, Kawhi Leonard, Nick Batum, Norman Powell, they all have positive things about Westbrook and his impact on the locker room and for the team. And if you want to talk pressure, looking at off the court, even on the court, Westbrook this year has some of the biggest pressure I've ever seen. As playing for the Lakers, the spotlight is 10 times brighter, and playing with LeBron, it's 100 times brighter. And when it comes to media, specifically ESPN, the biggest anti-Westbrook commentator was by far Kendrick Perkins. And funny enough, Perkins and Westbrook were actually former teammates. But with that being said, Perkins still called Westbrook a teen cancer, said he was broken and would be jobless past 2023. After Perkins spewed that BS and that nonsense about a former teammate, months later, Kendrick Perkins of all people said, "We owe Westbrook an apology." No, Kendrick, you owe him an apology because you were one of the guys at ESPN trying to get him out of the NBA. And I'm not going to blame all NBA fans for narratives Perkins pushed, promoted, and enjoyed talking about. And looking past ESPN at Fox Sports, you had Colin Cowherd dropping some Westbrook takes that have aged awful. And to give perspective, back in the day, Cowherd, even in 2017, had Ben Simmons and Klay Thompson ahead of Westbrook on the best players in the league. And just this year, he said Russell Westbrook, quote, has never made teammates better. See, stuff like that is revisionist history. You can criticize Westbrook in the moment for his play on the court with the Lakers. But what you shouldn't do is take that play in 2023 and say Westbrook 5-7 years ago was really not that great and not impactful on his teammates, as that narrative is simply false. As looking at Westbrook's teammates, whether it be superstars, role players, or even average players, he made a ton of guys better. Looking at Enes Kanter, back in 2015, he averaged a career high in points, 18.7, playing with Russ. Even Steven Adams had his best overall scoring season, averaging 13.9 with Westbrook. And looking at Paul George, his best ever year came with Russ, who averaged 28 points per game and was top 3 in MVP. Even looking at James Harden, with Westbrook, he averaged 34.3 points, his second highest of his career. And for Bradley Beal, in 2021, averaged 31.3 points, the highest of his career, playing with Westbrook. Colin Cowherd making that bold claim that Russ never made his teammates better is simply not true. And like I said before, looking at Russ in 2023 compared to 2017, those two players aren't the same. And trying to revise history like he wasn't impactful to players, even as a non-Westbrook fan, I just can't go along with that and that BS narrative. Now, for this video, it is pretty simple. I am not a Westbrook fan. But like I said, I'm a fan of guys who overcome, prove that others wrong, and ultimately have success in sports. And Westbrook this year has done just that. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.